Right, YouTube, and Shadow King Hazard, and I'm here to give my thoughts on the PlayStation 5 showcase. The PlayStation showcase happened yesterday, and I would have done a video about it, but people were still here, and it would have been really inconvenient to record over that while trying to get nobody to interfere. But better late than never. So let's get into it, shall we? So, the first thing of interest that we saw at the PlayStation 5 showcase was the reveal of Final Fantasy 16. And what makes it really interesting is that instead of doing the technology based mixed with some fantasy, um, future, future dystopian or future utopian era that most of the modern Final Fantasy games have done ever since Final Fantasy VII. This one seems to be harkening back to its roots of being classic medieval-esque uh, themed Final Fantasy, which should be interesting, and it should also appeal to like the classic Final Fantasy fans that prefer the original six as opposed to like seven and onward. Uh, the the graphics seem very nice as per standards of a Final Fantasy game, and the combat isn't turn based. It's action RPG, which is to be expected like a modern Final Fantasy game. They most part abandoned the whole turn based gameplay. Excuse me. And we still got the classic things like chocobos, summons, magic, what have you. I can't really go too much into detail about what's going on with Final Fantasy 16, partly because they just revealed it, and the other is that um, I haven't really been following Final Fantasy 16 news because I've mostly been focusing on Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Now the question is, will I be getting it? I might get it, if, but if I do, it'll probably be sometime later because again, my attention is towards Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. Um, but I may try to do videos explaining about Final Fantasy 16, try to get more knowledge about it so I can have more to talk about with you guys. Maybe get you guys excited about it if you're interested in it. The next one to talk about was the um, Miles Morales Spider-Man game, which is basically focusing on Miles Morales doing superhero acts, while also trying to stop I believe they said the Tinker was the villain this time around. Um, Interesting they went with that character. Um, as for me, as my thoughts, I would have preferred that they would have just waited until they were ready to do like Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Um, as I've said multiple times before, I'm not a fan of Miles Morales as a character. Um, I don't like that his personality isn't really all that different from Peter Parker, and his conception was basically just to be a, a black Hispanic Spider-Man, which also because was part of the reason why they killed Peter Parker in the Ultimate Spider-Man universe before bringing him back later on. So, good job there, Marvel. Uh, but I mean, that shouldn't be something you should hold against the game personally. Uh, like, if you like the old Spider-Man game and you have no strong feelings towards Miles Morales whatsoever, the gameplay seems pretty good. You're gonna be very interactive with the environment as you were with the last game. As you could see, the one part, um, Miles Morales is able to use his web to hold parts of the bridge when it's breaking apart due to the activities of the Tinker and his men. You're going to be able to use it as in weapons against the enemies. Uh, Miles Morales also does have his powers, like that electric venom, I believe that's what it was called, where his hands charge up with the discharge, and he's able to stun his opponents. Um, yeah, that's one of his more unique abilities. I don't really like that in the comics. But again, I'm not gonna hold that against the game. That's just my overall thoughts against Miles Morales. And he also had the invisibility, camouflage ability, as he's able to sneak up past opponents. So yeah, that offers more stealth options, which stealth was a part of the game with the original, but that was done with Mary Jane when she was doing her photo missions. Hmm. So I'm not sure if there's gonna be like any more with like Mary Jane helping out, or it's just gonna be Miles Morales doing his thing, or maybe he'll get someone else to help. Regardless, I would say if you like the first game, you might like it. I just felt like more people would have been excited for a Spider-Man story focusing more on Peter Parker rather than Miles Morales. I feel like Miles Morales, if they're going to do a solo Miles Morales game, it should have been like after Peter Parker had finished his story or had completed some sort of arc and needed a break, and Miles Morales had built his character up enough for us to get mostly interested in him. But there's not here nor there. Next, they revealed the Call of Duty game, and I'm not a fan of Call of Duty. No, I have no interest in it, so I don't really care. I don't recommend it. But if you want to play that, that's your thing. Just go for it. Then there was the Hogwarts game, which I think is supposed to be some sort of MMORPG based around the Harry Potter universe. That might seem interesting, and I believe it take place after the books. If I recall correctly, if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments section. Uh, and it'd be really helpful to know. I think it would be interesting to have an MMORPG around the Harry Potter universe. There's a lot you could do, a lot of creative spells you can get with, plenty of places to explore that J.K. Rowling introduced in the books before she decided to go all author revisionist on us just to um, get attention. Di- let's not dive deep into that rabbit hole, shall we? But all in all, I think that would be pretty interesting. I don't think I'll personally get it because I'm busy with SWOTOR, which isn't producing much content, but still, I don't want to divide myself any further. But I do recommend if you guys are Harry Potter fans, interested in magic and MMORPGs, you guys should go check it out. Then there was the Resident Evil 8 trailer, which it's called Resident Evil 8 Village. And we got to see more with Ethan Winters exploring the remote village in the in the snowy area, and it's going to be focused on instead of like zombies. I'm not sure if zombies will be in the game. Um, I forgot if the least mentioned that or not. But what they did mention was that there was going to be like these werewolf-esque creatures, or just one creature that's a werewolf-like, and some witches or what seems to be witches. Maybe they're using some biochemicals to cause hallucinogenics, which makes them seem like they're using magic when they're with this more logical explanation. Because I doubt they're going to introduce magic into the Resident Evil universe as it's mostly been grounded in science. Uh, then there was also the whole about Chris Redfield uh, supposedly killing Mia Winters, Ethan's wife, which would create some bad blood between him and Ethan. Now I want to know why would Chris do this because he's typically the good guy, and this seems like something a villain would do. So is did Chris learn something about Mia that made him feel justified to shoot her? Is he being controlled by a division of Umbrella that's sticking to the old ways, or some other terrorist organization that has a virus or a parasite that's able to control Chris? Time can only tell. Um, I really do hope that we get to flesh out Ethan's character, because he was pretty one dimensional in Resident Evil 7, but that was by design to make it just that we impose our emotions and experiences on Ethan, and we're the ones being scared. It's just our reaction. I mean, that worked for the time, but if you're gonna bring the character back, at least try to make him more interesting, so he actually feels more like a character that we should care about. There was also the tag that his story ends here, or something along those lines. So this might be the last time we see Ethan, or the last time we see Chris, which I don't know how to feel about that. If it's Chris, I don't think that's a good way to end his story, because I feel like there's still stuff you could deal with, like finishing off the last remnants of umbrella umbrella team that want to carry out Umbrella's legacy, as opposed to Neo Umbrella, who wants to atone. As and there's also the fact that I would have preferred that Chris's last journey be with all the established Resident Evil heroes, such as Jill, Leon, Claire, Barry, so on and so forth. I feel like they should have one more adventure before we close it out, and maybe focus on some new characters like Ethan and what have you. But if it's Ethan, this is it, close this story. I mean, that might be a little bit better because Chris can continue, but we kind of won't seem to care all that much because Ethan doesn't really have much of a character, and I feel like this kind of story you want to do this with a character you have some emotional investment with, and it should be a big send off for that character. So either way, I think Capcom is making a big mistake doing this kind of thing. Uh, but overall, I am somewhat interested seeing in Resident Evil 8, especially since they're going to be using the assets of Resident Evil 8 for the supposed Resident Evil 4 remake. And again, Capcom, why aren't we getting a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake? Resident Evil 4 has been ported off to practically every gaming system ever since it was released, even to the modern games. Gaming generation. So I don't really feel like a Resident Evil 4 remake is necessary. But if you do, at least give us Code Veronica first, because that one has aged poorly in some regards, and it could benefit from a remake. And if you do remake it, please put in effort into this remake. We don't need a half-assed remake like you did with the Resident Evil 3 remake. But that's neither here nor there. Then there was the... What else was there? What else did? There was the... there was that one shooting game that involves assassins going after each other, and basically one of them dies and just keep repeating it in a loop and over again. I'm not I mean, that seems somewhat interesting, but again, shooters aren't typically my cup of tea. So if that's your thing, you go ahead and buy it. Otherwise, I just pass on it like I would. Oh, let's see. There was. Hold on, I need to check to see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, we got a look at the remake of Demon Souls. Now, personally, I've never played Demon Souls, but I do understand the appeal and the whole um, great storytelling, good visuals, very rooted with mythologies and with its inspirations, and a lot of people do like the hard difficulty. So that's your thing. I recommend checking it out. It would be good because I've heard some parts of Demon Soul have haven't really aged all that well over these years. So it would be nice to help remind people of the greatness of the original Demon Souls. Um, there was also a video showing off the Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, and its main attraction is that you get to play as Virgil. Um, I don't think that this you didn't need to make a whole special edition for that. Because that just seems like some DLC you could have just added in for like I don't know maybe 20, 30 bucks to play as Virgil. Maybe get a campaign in there. Uh, I don't think you need to re-release a new version of a game. That might be a little bit of that Capcom greed going there. Unless they already did a DLC where you get to play Virgil in the original version of Devil May Cry, and this special edition is just a whole package altogether. In which case, you probably should just still release it at a discount because it's just a whole game along with a few extras. So um, instead of playing full price, maybe cut it off by like $10 or so. Uh, then there was also that Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm honestly surprised they're still making those. Um, so again, you know the typical formula of Five Nights at Freddy's. Watching out for animatronics that are trying to kill you, a bunch of jump scares. Um, it's just your typical business with that. I'm surprised it lasted that long. Then again, they tried to give it more of a narrative story with more some of the recent games. So I guess that's how causes motion. I was also surprised it has more of a budget now. It seems like it's professionally done. So I guess all that crowdfunding kind of helped, and maybe they got some professional game developers to work on it now. Which means, yeah, very impressive. Never underestimate the power of crowdfunding. And I believe the last bit of note was the big one. We finally got the announcement for God of War 5, or is this being called God of War Ragnarok? Though some people are calling it God of War 2, but no people, it's called God of War 5. It's God of War 5. God of War 2 was the one that came out in 2007. This is God of War 5. That's what all the real hardcore, longtime God of War fans know. So, as you know, as a huge God of War fan, it's my favorite series. I am deeply excited for God of War 5. Looking to see where it goes and uh, what story is going to be done with the whole Ragnarok and the relationship between Kratos and Atreus. Which, spoiler in case you didn't know, Atreus was revealed to be Loki, so he's going to play a huge pivotal role in Ragnarok as he brings about the Twilight of the Gods. And we're going to have to get some explanations like how he's going to sire his children, uh, Jormungandr, aka the World Serpent, that giant snake that you saw in the trailers in the game. Then there's Fenrir, the giant wolf, and his offsprings, And then there's Hella, or Hell, or either which, it's a Norse mythology. They change it between. So there's going to have to be set up for that. There's also going to be, it was foreshadowed that the next big antagonist that Kratos was going to go up against was Thor. So that would be really interesting, especially if Mjolnir has the same powers as it does in the Marvel Universe. Like, it's able to call back to its owner's hand. So, the owner is able to call it back to his hand. So, which Kratos can do with a Leviathan axe. So that'd be interesting gameplay. Like, maybe Thor can throw Mjolnir and Kratos throws Leviathan axe at the same time, and they clash for like a split second. You can call it back to you and try to do it before Thor gets Mjolnir back in his hand and try to get a good attack. That would be epic. Uh, I'm also would be interested in seeing if Atreus is going to learn about more about Kratos' past, because Kratos just revealed that he killed a lot of random people under his service of Ares, as well as killing his father Zeus along with the other Olympians. But he doesn't know about Kratos' first wife and his daughter Calliope. So, it'd be interesting if that got revealed and how that's going to affect his relationship with Kratos. Will that drive a wedge with them, or will they able to overcome with it and be able to defeat the Aesir gods? We also gotta still deal with the whole Freya subplot, because Freya wants revenge against Kratos for killing her son Balder. That would be a pretty big epic fight. Of course, she'd have to get her powers back because she's cursed to not be able to defend herself. So that would be that. All in all, there's a lot of potential with God of War 5 that I'm looking forward to. We also got the reveal of the PlayStation 5 price. So if you're going to get the digital only version, or the digital edition, I believe that's what it's called, it's going to cost you about $400 to get. And if you just get the standard version of the PS4, it's with the price of $500. Now that doesn't. If I recall correctly, that was around the same price as the as the PS4 when it came out. It was like maybe like $400 to $500. So that seems relatively reasonable. Hold on, let me check. I want to get this right. How much did PS4 cost on release? Okay. Apparently, the PS4 cost about $300 when it came out. Haha. Okay, so they raised it about $200. I suppose it's not too unreasonable, as it's a more advanced system, and they awfully have a lot of more options to it. So I guess the price is somewhat warranted. Though you can save off by just giving the digital edition, which means you'll be getting your games digitally. Um, as for when I think I'm going to get my copy of the PS5, I'm going to wait for maybe like when there's like more games options that I can look forward to and build my library upon. Plus, I also want to see more of what the PlayStation 5 can do in terms of backwards compatibility. Will it just be like digital exclusive? Because they touched on that, like there's going to be some in the PlayStation Plus library of old PS4 games, mostly their heavy hitters. Um, but I want to see more of that. I want to see will physical copies still work? Because that will save me money on just getting old PS4 games and buying them again, or maybe the PS4 games that I bought digitally will still be in my library, and I won't have to purchase them again. Again, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. But another thing that's going on going back to God of War 5, I really do want them to explore more of the relationship between Kratos and Atreus, aka Loki. I want them to build there to be some bonding, some tension, some closure, and strengthening their relationship. I want it to be a good, but all in all, I want it to be a good story that feels epic and feels satisfying. I don't want what happened with The Last of Us 2, which was very disrespectful, very poorly written, and honestly felt like a spit in the face of the fans, and honestly was pretty nihilistic. I I really hate that game. Shame on Naughty Dog for doing that. Uh, but I believe those are all my thoughts on what happened with the PlayStation 5 showcase. So, if you guys had any thoughts, you can tell me in the comment section, and we can get a discussion going. So those are all my thoughts. I'll catch you guys later.